Welcome back. We are here with Johanna Warren from Fashionkind. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Fashionkind, tell us a little bit of what you do and why you do it over there.
Okay, so Fashionkind is a nonprofit that I started last year. We have a boutique for women who are in recovery from addiction and substance abuse. So this gives them a place to come get dressed for an interview. We have stylists who volunteer. Sometimes they already have the job, so they just need clothes for work, but it's a place to be supported. It's a safe environment, and yeah, that's what we do.
So by the time this show airs, you're already going to have this annual event. It's a fashion show. And just tell, I think it's, even though they're not going to be able to make it this time, tell us a little bit about, because this is also the mission of Fashionkind, these kinds of things that you do. So tell us a little bit about that fashion show that you had.
Okay, so December 3rd, 13 models, all of them are women in recovery who are very loud and proud about their recovery. There's a reason for that because of the stigma and the shame that's involved, and that's a lot of what keeps them in the shadows and keeps them from getting back out there. And so we are parading them down the runway basically to say, I did this and so can you, and to encourage the ones who are still struggling.
So I have to ask, so why this? You could have chosen a lot of different things. Why did this Fashionkind, how did that start for you, and why did you start it?
It started for me, this has been a long time coming. It is a family disease. It is, I was born into it. My parents, most of my siblings have struggled with it. My sister, who was my best friend, has been lost to me for almost a decade now because of it. And so I think it's just very personal. And there's not enough, I saw her in and out of rehabs. There's not enough support for the reintegration and the relapse prevention of someone who gets sober. That's the very heavy lifting in this thing. And so they get back out there, they're not just welcomed back into society.
That's right.
And they feel often, demoralized because they're ashamed of themselves. They've made a lot of mistakes and they have very high barriers to entry. And so they repeat old habits if they don't get the help they need.
So you give them this space, and maybe if you could share like a story what's one of the things that you've noticed since you've started this, because you said it's only been a year, the impact that it has had? What would you say? I think you mentioned before about the volunteers or...
The volunteers get the most excited because most of them are also women in recovery. And so it helps them to stay sober when they remember where they were, and they can relate to these women who are just freshly out of treatment and trying to get their legs back, trying to get their lives back. And they say things to me like, I wish this existed when I was getting my life together. I wish I had this kind of support for other people. I'm so glad I can be there for other women who are getting, who are going through this, and they're just a little shaky. And so that's where I really get the best feedback. The clients are wonderful too, but they often come in a little scared, a little nervous, not really sure what to expect, not really sure, how it all works. And so it's really the volunteers that seem to get a little crazy.
So this is the season of giving and donating. So how can someone become involved, whether as a participant or a volunteer? How do they find you?
They can find me online, fashionkind.org. They can start a clothing drive. There's a lot of ways to get involved. You can volunteer. You can be a stylist. We get very creative with this, and we try to get photos of the women because letting them see themselves looking all dolled up has a pretty huge impact. So photographers, there's a lot of ways to get involved in this.
So you can just go onto the website. All the information is there. Fashionkind.org,
yes.
.org. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will be right back with more Oceanside Spectrum.